Oh my god. How the hell am I going to review this? Yeah, this movie is something else. It's all been leading up to this as far as over the top horror movies go. From Old to Don't Breathe 2 to Candyman. Leave it to James Wan, of all directors, to unleash the craziest horror film in years. First things first, I had no clue what this movie was about. I never saw a trailer, not even a TV spot. All I knew was it is the new horror film from James Wan. James Wan is widely regarded as one of the best directors working in horror right now. The director of Insidious and The Conjuring, his horror films have been well made, skillfully crafted, and effective with their scares. But as intense as they can be, they've always been very mainstream and fairly conventional, never weird or crazy. But Malignant is where James Wan goes insane. So, is the movie any good? Well, let's start off by saying I expected another good horror film from the aforementioned filmmaker. But then the movie started, and I witnessed the worst opening scene in recent memory. This opening scene is filled with such cheesy acting, such corny dialogue, and it shows way too much of the horror content that it kind of ruins much of the suspense for the rest of the film. Throughout its first two-thirds of its running time, a lot was going through my head. I was thinking to myself, this movie is kind of bad. This premise is ridiculous. This story is clumsily told, as well as confusing. These characters are shallow, this dialogue is vapid, and these scares are mostly ineffective due to that opening scene. However, while all of these thoughts played in my head in that first and second act, there is one pivotal positive observation. James Wan is really trying. When it comes to the filmmaking, especially the cinematography, it is incredibly ambitious. Too ambitious, actually. A movie this tacky probably doesn't deserve elaborate camera movement, immaculate lighting, and super stylized camera angles. Nevertheless, James Wan and his cinematographer are going full steam ahead to give the audience the illusion they are watching a well made film. But then we get to the third act, and something happened. I started to kind of like it. This final act contained plot revelations that explained the confusing aspects of the story. But the real standout in the third act is the movie going knuckin' futs. The climax and the ending doubles down on the bizarre, on the crazy, and yes, on the ridiculousness that I begin to enjoy it. Let me be clear. It's kind of bad, and it's certainly a mess, but my God, is it a wild ride? When the movie was over, my friend and I were laughing to ourselves, completely baffled by this madhouse of a movie we've been discharged from. In closing, Malignant is an unforgettable mess of WTF proportions, but I had a hell of a time watching it. For better or for worse, I give Malignant 2.5 out of 4 stars. So, before I end this review, there's a couple of things I have to talk about. So, I have no clue what the score is on Rotten Tomatoes. It could be as low as 5%, or it could be as high as 35%. But I don't think it's any higher than that. If I had to predict a specific number, I'd say 15%. I think that's a good guess. Speaking of predictions, I had an interesting guess for a plot twist, but talking about it would be somewhat of a spoiler, in the sense that I'm spoiling what you might be thinking, what I was thinking, if you're going to see Malignant. So, here's my spoiler prediction that turned out to be wrong, but I want to talk about it. You've been warned. So, Gabriel, who was locked up in a mental institution and has supernatural powers involving electricity, I was guessing he gained these powers through electroshock therapy. Oh well, I'm not going to say I'm a genius, but I don't think it's a dumb prediction. For what the movie is, it's mildly clever. If you've seen Malignant, let me know in the comments below if you were thinking what I was thinking. All right, that's all I have to say about Malignant. Honestly, I'm both proud and amused that I was that guy who paid to see this in a theater. I'm glad that some of that money went to Regal Cinemas. Suck it, HBO Max.